dissolving the subject-object construct in 5 different ways. Well, that's a title. It's really hard to come up with titles, I have to say. So if you have any ideas for titles, please comment in the blocks below. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just having a bit of a problem with Zoom. Don't know what's happening there. Yeah. Yeah, Zoom is acting very strange. Okay, hopefully that will stop. I know if I go to gallery, then that will. No, I can't. I just speak up. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So we will start the talk. Dissolving the subject-object. Yeah, I can't remember the title already. In 5 different ways. So I mean, if you really dissolve subject-object, then you couldn't possibly do it. So it couldn't possibly be your doing. So, so in the end, it is a little bit of a trick title because who would be the one that dissolves it? But we can do some meditations and explorations into subject-object. And yeah, and then we can see what happens. But in the end, to truly dissolve it, there is a movement back to beingness, aliveness, the impersonal I am. And that is all things and no things. And that movement back to it can't be done by a person because it's already here. That already is that stillness. Yeah, that's incredibly beautiful. And I know I often say that in the middle of my talks, that's super beautiful, but it's not really my talks because who would be talking? It's beingness talking. So what happens in the character? So this is my way of dividing things. And what happens in the character is there is a movement to the stillness, or the character kind of gives up, or the character kind of moves out of the way. And then there is resting in stillness and then allowing the words to be spoken. But it doesn't in any way feel like it's coming from a timeline, like it's coming from me. So then when it comes out and I say it's really beautiful, it's because I've got nothing to do with it. Yeah. So the first way to dissolve the subject-object, the first way is through non-duality talks. Non-duality talks a kind of like self-investigation. They're kind of like self-inquiry. And the mind says it's external, it's Lisa doing it, or it's this teacher doing it, or that teacher doing it. But really, it's not the subject object, it's not somebody doing it for somebody else. There is beingness in which these words appear. There is aliveness in which these words appear. And if you listen to a place from the beyond the intellect, it's important to understand and have a good intellectual framework of your character and of non-duality. But when that's sorted, when you've understood it, kind of roughly, I mean, you can never really like match your words up with somebody else. Like you have to find your own words for it in the end. But when there is that's done and you feel quite contented with your conceptual framework for it, then there can be a deeper listening. You could say, like some people would say, listening from the heart, but it's not really a listening from the heart. It's a listening from beyond. It's when that person moves out of the way and stops listening. And when it's from that place, it's like a resonance. It's like beingness is being called forward. But it's all happening beyond you because it's not you that's like, oh, here, beingness, go forward. You go in the foreground, character go in the background. Yeah, it's not happening like that. So when it's more from a resonance place, it's really like self-inquiry, as if there's deep meditation, and then the question begins to come in, who am I? Who is it that is experiencing this? And that's such love. Yeah, it's so exciting. When I first started going to non-duality speakers, my first teachers were, I lived in London at the time, and my first satsang teachers that I could go to that were speaking in London regularly were Tony Parsons and a teacher called Nathan Gill. And actually, Nathan Gill was who I resonated with the most. And it was just like really small talks. And often when I used to go to his talk, some reason that it was, I think in an old church or something, or this old building, and the light always used to shine in past him. It was really beautiful. And he'd be speaking, and my whole body would be vibrating in presence. I had no language for that. For me, what it felt like was love. It felt like when you put on that piece of music that really touches you, and there's a vibration of like presence, but you don't know that. You just kind of feel like you love the song. Or when you see a beautiful landscape and are captivated by its beauty, there is a presence that comes forward, the seeking stops, and there is this aliveness. The same when you're really engaged with people or engaged in some form of art or creativity. And that to me is dissolving the subject object. That's one way of dissolving the subject object. And it's so interesting because satsang or non-duality doesn't work for everybody. For some people, they come to it and they just feel like this is madness. Like, a lot of my friends and family, like, some of them don't really understand what it is, and some of them that understand it a bit more, they kind of feel, I kind of got the feeling in the beginning when I first started speaking, they were a bit disgusted by it. It was like one of my friends said, it's like getting stuck in a loop. Like satsang is like you just get stuck in the loop and the same thing is repeated and you can't get out of it. And I can understand if you come to it from the mind, that's what it might seem like. But if you're coming to it from a different place, it's a meditation. It's like stopping something. It's like a guidance home, like a very deep meditation. And what happens in some of my smaller groups is I feel like there is like a um, this like ping pong effect. So there is a speaking from presence here, and then another one in the group starts becoming very present, and then another one, and it's like a ping pong, and it sort of becomes bigger and bigger, you know. Not all the time, but that's I think my favorite thing. I do these book clubs, and I think that's one of my, I mean, there's lots of things I really like about it, but that's one of my favorite things is that in that small group where we're concentrating just on non-duality and not going too much into psychology, I'm not against that. I think it's fantastic, but I think there's better people that can do the psychological stuff than me that are more, it resonates more for them. And I love to reference people off to that. And if we do that, then it's in this small group, it's like this ping pong effect. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes it only happens with a few people in the group, but it feels very blissful. And I feel like it's calling forward that beingness and sort of moving the character to the side. I mean, I know that's really dualistic in what I say, but I think you get a sense of it. And yeah, yeah, such beauty. And what else? So I've got to give 5 ways. I have to admit that I did copy this title off another speaker. I shall admit it was Angelo from Simply Always Awake. I'm going to have to tell him we are friends. So I will tell him before the listeners do. Yeah, sorry, that wasn't a very PC thing to say to call seekers. Yeah, where that came. Yeah, but I just changed it a little bit. He was like, he said, I think it was like 5 steps. And I was like, yeah, 5 steps. I don't know, can't do that, but 5 different ways. Maybe I could do that. But I didn't think about it beforehand and practice and think, okay, these are the 5 ways. I just was like, well, I'm sure that can just come out. I mean, maybe if I'd said 20 ways, maybe that could come out too, but I thought 5, okay, that can come out. So we've got that way. So satsang, meeting in truth. And I think all of you are most probably satsangerites, making up words, but that means in my made up language that you're all resonating with non-duality in this way. It's kind of bringing forward that stillness. And you might go in and out of that. It might sometimes, that might be felt, and then other times not. Okay, so another way in which to dissolve the subject object. Another way. So this is without thinking. This is just letting it come. And what's coming is mantra. That's what's coming. Mantra singing. Hurry, 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 hurry. That's the Hare Krishna one. Hurry, 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 hurry. So I don't know. I'm not speaking. I'm not thinking about this. It's just coming out. So mantra singing, if you've ever done mantra singing before, the way in which it dissolves subject object is if you're in a creative or any activity and you completely surrender to the activity, then God takes over. It becomes God's action. And the thing about singing these mantras, I mean, they have these ideas that if you sing these mantras with different sounds, it kind of like, yeah, these sounds are doing things to your body, but we're talking about dissolving the subject object. And people might say that the sounds do, but I don't know so much about that. Yeah, what's the key to it is the same as what you're doing in non-duality. When you're singing, when you're doing the activity, you're completely surrendered to it. So there's no longer someone listening to the mantra, somebody singing the mantra. There is only singing happening. And because of the simplicity and the repetitiveness of it, it kind of keeps the person focused and then allows that resonance to happen. But again, that doesn't work for everybody. I mean, in India, I think that they, they do it for hours on end, like hours, like hurry, hurry. I don't know the different mantras, words. But it's not you getting somewhere, that's the illusion. So it's not you singing the mantra and then becoming beingness. It's that there is the focus of the mind. So the mind is focused on the singing, and then there is a surrender, and then the beingness comes forward. You can really find it in everything. It's the listening from a different place. So the third way, can't believe I'm getting up to number 3. They're all kind of the same, really. It's all the same answer, isn't it? But sometimes you need to hear that because maybe, you kind of value one over the other, or you value. The third way is self-inquiry. And what is self-inquiry? Self-inquiry, to me, kind of reminds me of, in Pac-Man, when Pac-Man dies, or when he completes a level, I think, he eats himself. So his mouth keeps getting wider and wider. He's like this round ball, and then it kind of like goes back on itself and he disappears. And this to me is what self-inquiry is like. So you ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? And you keep asking that question. Am I a thought? Am I a feeling? Am I a vision? Am I a sound? Am I touch? Am I what I'm seeing? And you keep asking it until you get to no place, until you get to the place without opposition. It's like going back, 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 back. And again, it feels like you're doing it. But when you truly see how life works, there were thoughts, feelings, habits, and conditions appearing, deconstructing an illusion and allowing something else to shine through. But it's not you getting to it. You cannot get to beingness. You are always a movement in time. So when you see that you're not your memory, you're not your body, you're not the past or the future, then it's not really just a seeing, it's like a whole energetic expression. Then something else becomes illuminated. Something else shines through. And then it's seen that that was always the source of everything. And then this is love. It's the source, the saucy source. Okay, the fourth way. Fourth way. The fourth way would be putting the attention in the I am or in the personal awareness. Yeah, just please note that I realized that I speak differently from a lot of other teachers, having studied I am that. It's having an influence with the people again and again. It's having an influence on the way I speak. So please, yeah, just ask for clarity in the Telegram group if you need it on any of my words, because I do speak differently from other teachers. Some teachers speak the same as me. And maybe because of the influence of reading I Am That, my words change. It's really not in the words. That's why this can be expressed in so many ways. It's like Ramana Maharshi says, you use one thorn to remove a thought. Oh no, you remove one, you use one thorn to remove another thorn, and then you throw both thorns away. Yeah, so what I mean by personal awareness or awareness, we could just call it awareness, is attention. So attention. So attention, so putting the attention in the attention. And that's not the big consciousness. There's something that knows that activity, but you put attention in attention. The reason, in order to find attention, in order to find awareness, it must mean there's two. So there's something that's conscious of that beyond. But it's just doing that activity. And so what you're doing is you're breaking the thought stream, and you're breaking the seeking patterns, or you're putting it in the sense of I am, of personal I am. So the feeling of I am prior to your thoughts. And that's often found in the heart. I think Ramana Maharshi said the left side of the heart. I think though that's maybe unique for everyone, because I don't know exactly what he means by the left side of the heart. Because of the dyslexia, I have to give up so much. I have to give up so much pride in anything because I forget and I can't remember what. I do know that left is this side, but then the left side of the heart, is it left from here or from the other way? Which So just here, you got to find it yourself, you know. And I laugh at myself. Well, there's because I'm trying to show you that these things aren't super important, you know, don't get hooked on these little details. It's like your feeling of I am. You find that. You don't need me to verify it. And then you're moving your attention back to that feeling of I am. You're moving your attention back to itself. And then this breaks the seeking. This breaks the thought storm. And so this is the concentration of the mind. But again, that's not going to lead you to beingness. But what it's doing is it's clearing the clouds that's blocking beingness. So it's clearing the clouds that are blocking the sunlight. But it's not you getting somewhere. Like this illusion that you are doing that you are the clouds, that you are the activity of doing that is an illusion. The idea that you are going to get somewhere, and the idea that you have to do that method in order to become free. All of these ideas can be let go of. All ideas can be let go of. But I say this, and then if there's a momentum there to practice, and that's the most perfect thing because that's what God's instructing. God is instructing that. That is divine. That is perfect. It's beautiful. It's so lovely. So we go to the fifth way. What is going to come? And the fifth way is love and compassion. This is so super important. You know, this is the one thing that I can say stops after that shift happened in me, or that shift from the character to beingness, is hatred. Yeah. So there can still be anger, you know, if somebody does something really mean or really inappropriate, there can be anger. And there can be fear of people as well, but not hatred. There's a total understanding of it, you know, of the behavior, you know, when you really realize suffering and recognize suffering and the source of suffering, you recognize it in everybody else. So there can be anger, you know, if somebody comes along and, you know, destroys the house that you've just built, you know, you've really put a lot of energy into building it and chasing the work people, and you know, it's taken years, and then somebody comes along and destroys it because they hate you. There can be anger, but not hate. The same as somebody murdered one of your family members. Yeah, there could be anger, but not hate. Or if somebody something. And so love and compassion. So the Buddhists used to say this. So the Buddhist group would say, you know, the important part is concentration of the mind. You know, to be a Buddhist monk or to be a Buddhist practitioner. So concentration of the mind and love and compassion. Because love and compassion is the natural way of being, you know, beingness is absolute love and embracing. And then that affects the character. You know, the character then is loving and compassionate. That might not look like what you want, So yeah, like recently somebody was angry with me over an action I had to take because of business. They were a friend and we did business together, and they were angry in the action I took. And yeah, and they couldn't understand why I did it, but to me it was very obvious that I had to do that. And so to them, they were very angry, and it most really didn't look like loving and compassionate. But from here, it felt loving and compassionate. It just isn't in agreement with the other person, so they couldn't see that as, like, they couldn't see that from here, it felt like it was coming from love, but from there, it felt like I was wrong and bad and etc. So that so the way in which this dissolves subject object is, recognizing what it is you love and recognizing compassion. And the way that that is done is, or the way that that happens, is when the seeking stops, and noticing that the seeking for something isn't your freedom. Your freedom is the stopping of seeking, the stopping of trying to own and have objects. So it's like, so say if you see a beautiful piece of art, the seeking will want to own that art and to keep it for itself, because it feels, the seeking part of you feels like that object provided you freedom. But that object didn't provide you freedom. It's just, there was a seeing of it and recognizing freedom in that. So say with a partner, when you first meet the partner, you maybe have great moments of in-loveness happening and the seeking stops. But then through time, you want to own that partner. You don't want to lose that partner. So you begin to hold on to them and put restrictions on them, from a seeking place, not from a practical living together place. And it kind of squashes the love for them, the spontaneity and the love. So it's recognizing what love is. That love isn't an object. Love isn't a behavior. Love isn't something you get or obtain. It's not becoming enlightened. It's your pure nature. And recognizing that when you see something that you appreciate, the seeking stops, and then the love comes forward. So it's always looking out for that and recognizing it clearly. But again, it's not your doing, it's something that happens. Yeah, so for some people, if you have a lot of shame, when I speak about this, you might feel, the narrator might tell you that you've done something wrong, and that because you haven't done all these 5 different ways, you therefore won't get it. You've done something wrong and you're bad. So I do notice that people that come into non-duality, if they've got a lot of shame, they can sometimes tend to like hearing there's nobody doing anything. That's relaxing for them. And then when they hear advice, they suddenly go into that child mother role, and then they feel like the failure, that the mother is telling them to do all things or being very controlling, and they're failing, they're not able to do it. And it sort of brings that energy up. Yeah. So it's recognizing that. Yeah. it's what happens is you become so self-aware in a way because you're not caught up in illusion and so aware of what the mind does. Alicia's come to join us. Yeah, she is still here. She is phenomenal. And something really magical's happened. So she's old, she's 12 years old. And, you know, she's also from the streets. So her first period of life, maybe she didn't have the best food and the best care. So that can sometimes affect the dog. And her hair on the back of her legs and on her tail had fallen out. And the color of her coat wasn't so shiny and black anymore. It sort of dulled. And this sort of happened gradually over the last period of her life, 2-3 years of her life. And then she went for this physiotherapy because she has deformed back legs and it creates pressure on her back. And she did this physiotherapy and the hair grew back and the color of her fur is beginning to go jet black and shiny again. And she's kind of acting differently. It's really amazing. Like she's come back to life again. It's really, we don't really know what it is because it could have been lots of things. I do feel like the physiotherapy played a role in it. And then also it could be to do with the food because before I used to cook or make all her food and now she just eats whatever she wants. I just give her whatever she wants because she's on this medication and her stomach has been very sensitive. So I just offer her and see what she takes. And I just buy a wide selection of things and she seems to like all these different things. And some of it's like really shitty food. I used to buy like quite good quality food and make it for her. But so that could also be it as well. So she just sniffs and I don't know. She's Yeah, and she's really into whipped cream, which has got like sugar in it. It's mostly the worst type of milk, and the cows have got all these hormones in them. But that's what she seems to like, so I let her have as much of it as she likes. And she's beaming. It's really sweet. It's really sweet. Yeah. She's gonna be the dog that lives forever. Yeah, the never-ending story. Yeah. Okay, so we now go to questions. But she's like
That's
really
awesome.
black again.
Amazing.
Isn't it? She's like 12 years old. She's got advanced stage heart disease. And then suddenly from this lady that she's a physiotherapist and also a dog osteopath. And she does
Yeah.
massage and light therapy on her. It's
Wow.
amazing. Look at her.
That's
She's like 11, 12 years old.
that's awesome.
Very.
That's beautiful. Thanks for doing that. I really appreciate it.